I'm 25 years old. It's 5 o'clock in downtown Madison, Wisconsin. I walk up to the main pedestrian shopping street downtown. I sit down on a bench and I feel like I'm gonna die. I've got this dread in the pit of my stomach. It's like a stone covered in tar. And I'm sitting on the bench thinking, I don't want to do it. I have to do it. I'm going to do it. I could not do it. No, I have to do it. I'm going to do it. When I was 17, I had my first performance with the West High Jugglers in our high school fine arts week. The show took place in a giant theater filled with all my friends, peers, and family. It was terrifying, and I loved it. A few years later, I went to New York City with 3 of my juggling buddies, and we spent the whole summer street performing and learning the craft. It was super hard, but it was really fun. And then for the next 2 years, I spent that time doing a comedy juggling show with my friend Matt. Matt eventually moved to New York City permanently, and despite the fact that I was going to juggling club twice a week, I didn't have anyone to perform with, so I stopped doing shows. That wasn't very fun. So I started looking for another show partner, but it's a really hard thing. It's hard to find a show partner. There's a lot of things that have to line up just right. I was not successful. After a year, I had not found anyone. I realized if I was going to do this, I had to do it myself. So I'm sitting on this bench thinking, I don't want to do it. I have to do it. All right, I'm going to do it. I could definitely not do it. No, I have to do it. I'm going to do it. And after the show, I'm going to pass the hat. I have a part-time job, so it's not actually about the money. I've told a lot of people, for accountability's sake, I've told a lot of people that I'm going to do my first solo show. And many of them help me learn tricks. Some of them help me figure out my routines. So if I chicken out, it's going to affect my reputation. But it's not really about the reputation either. I have a coworker at my retail job who, his dad worked hard his whole career, saving money so he could have adventures after retirement. He retired, and a week later, he died. I don't want to live like that. So I know that I'm a performer, so I have to actually perform. If this is who I am, this has to be what I do. I also know I'm not good. I have performed for a few years, but it was always with a group. And I've learned from hanging out, so I managed to scrounge up 20 minutes of material for this show. And it's stuff that I never would have done with the group. I'm really good at yo-yoing. It's the thing that I'm best at. But I never felt like a yo-yo. I felt the yo-yo was too physically small and wasn't very impressive for a street show. But now, to pad out my set, I am definitely doing some yo-yoing. And I've also learned from spending time with other jugglers and street performers that the first 100 shows don't count. Because they're terrible. And that means I can't even fool myself into thinking that this is going to go well. I'm sitting on the bench in the best outfit that I can scrounge up. I've got my black Vans skateboarding shoes, khaki shorts, and a purple t-shirt where I used burgundy paint to paint on it in big letters the word yo. I'm not really a very sweaty person, but my shirt was drenched. And I'm sitting there on the bench, and I have this sound in my head, which sounds like what I imagine it would sound like if I was strapped to the front of a full-speed subway train. It's just all white noise and vibration and frenzy. Almost against my will, as if I'm not really in control of my own body, I stand up, and I walk toward the pitch. I start setting up my props near the sidewalk. I check the yo-yos in my pockets. I put a Diablo down with the hand sticks. I set the torches down with the fuel canister next to it. By far, the hardest part of street performing is gathering a crowd. when I was with a group, I was terrible at it when I was with a group, and now it's just me. So as people are walking by, I'm saying, hey, I'm gonna do a show. Juggling show right here. And people are making eye contact because they're polite Midwesterners. But they just keep on walking, and this happens over and over. And with some frequency, people will say, we'll be back, which I know means 100% they definitely will not be back. So I'm at peak dread here, and I'm just on the fly. I'm trying to figure out what I can say or what I can do to get people to stop. And one group is going by, and they say, yeah, we're going to dinner. We'll come back later. And I say, uh-huh, sure you will. And at the same time, there's another group on the other side of the pitch, a group of 3 people that hear that, and they snicker and stop. And I think maybe I've cracked the code. But I need more than 3 people. So a second ago, I was snarky, and they thought it was funny, so I'm going to roll with it. Eventually, I did manage to gather a crowd of 10 people. And so it's time to start the show. So I very casually, low-key, gently pull a yo-yo out of my pocket because I don't want to scare anyone off. And I ask, does anyone want to see any yo-yo tricks? Are there any requests? Knowing full well that for normal people, at most, they only know the names of 3 tricks. So it'd be walk the dog, rock the baby, and around the world. And sure enough, somebody says, yeah, do the dog one. So I do it really well, and they seem to be impressed. And I know I don't have much time, like I need to keep their attention quickly, so I move into the other tricks that I know they'll recognize. I do rock the baby and around the world, and some other old school tricks that I know I can do. Man on the flying trapeze, elevator, brain twister, Ouija bow. Not a joke, it's real. And they seem to be having a good time, but most importantly, they are still looking at me and they are not leaving. I get to the last yo-yo trick, the Atom Smasher, so split bottom mount, one hand under, the other hand under, somersault, get out of it with a loop. And I get a huge round of applause from 10 people. But I need some more people, and I know I need to transition quickly so I don't lose anyone, so I put the yo-yo back in my pocket. I reach down, I pick up the Diablo, and ask everyone, does anyone know what this is? And no one says anything. So I say, this is an ancient Chinese toy. It's called the Diablo. And if you've never seen a Diablo before, it looks like an oversized yo-yo or like an hourglass, and it spins on a string that goes between 2 hand sticks. So I get the Diablo going, and the big sort of strange movements that I'm doing to get it to pick up speed draw the attention of more people. So I get about 15 to 20 people who stop. But I'm so freaked out, it doesn't really register. So I do some tricks. I throw the Diablo way high up in the air. I catch it again, and that draws even more people, and I'm getting some oohs and ahs, and it seems like we've really got something going now. So I set the Diablo down, and this is the moment where what I need to do is maintain their attention long enough. I set the Diablo down and say, ladies and gentlemen, and I still said that because it was the 90s. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the part of the show you've all been waiting for. We've come to the grand finale where I juggle the flaming torches. They seem impressed. And I have to do quite a bit of talking here because I've got a lot of things I have to do before I can get the torches lit. I have to take the lid off the canister. I have to soak each torch individually. I have to put the lid back on the canister. Very important, I've heard stories. I need to shake the excess fuel off the torches and then light them. And I've got to let them burn for a little bit because the flames are so massive when they're first lit. So as they're burning, I ask the audience, ladies and gentlemen, does anyone know why this part of the show is called the grand finale? And no one answers because they're Midwesterners and it's still light out. So I talked to the guy right in front of me. You, sir, why is this part of the show called the grand finale? He says, because it's impressive. Wrong. It's called the grand finale because it comes at the end of the show. Now, why does it come at the end of the show? No one says anything, probably because they're traumatized because I just yelled at the first guy. It comes at the end of the show because it's so dangerous and so death-defying. If I put it anywhere else in the show, I might not live to continue. Ooh. Yeah, they laughed. It was pretty good. So I've reached a moment in the show where I suddenly realize that this can no longer be a total train wreck. No matter what happens, I'm going to be able to finish the show. I mean, unless the cops come and stop me, but it should be fine. I'm going to be able to finish the show. And suddenly, the tension in my body evaporates, and the dread, the feeling of impending doom, just all goes away. My movements get a little more smooth, and things get a little bit easier. But I'm still nervous about it because the tricks I'm going to do in this grand finale really only have a success rate of about 60 to 70%. Yeah. And the torches only burn for 3.5 minutes, so I don't have time to make mistakes. So I've got the torches lit. As I have to let them burn down for just a bit more, this is the time where I say, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the show, I will be passing the hat. Please put in the hat whatever you feel is appropriate, but if you're from out of town, the standard amount to put in the hat is $50. I start juggling the torches, and I'm doing the only 5 tricks I know that are good enough for the show. So I'm doing under one leg, under the other leg, behind the back, chops, I'm doing continuous flourishes, and it looks awesome. The flame trails past it, make everything look great, but then I drop, and it's silence. That does not feel good. It's okay, I reach down, I pick up the torch, I start juggling again, I drop again, and this time it's not silence. This time the crowd goes, oh. That's pity. That's way worse than silence. I'm embarrassed. And the problem with being embarrassed is that means my palms are starting to sweat, which makes it hard for me to hold on to the torches. And it's my brain, part of my brain is saying, what's wrong with you? Why can't you do this? And weirdly, another part of my brain is saying, hey, this is going great. Mark, you're awesome. Keep at it. So I let the two sides of my brain battle it out. And now I've gotten to the final trick of the grand finale. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the final trick. I'm going to take one torch, I'm going to throw it way high up in the air, I'm going to spin around, and then I'm going to catch the torch again. They're excited. So I start juggling, I throw one torch way high up in the air, I spin around, I reach my hand up to catch it, and the torch drops to the ground. But it's okay, because I did it on purpose to make it more exciting. So I pick the torch up again, I start juggling, I throw it way high up in the air, I reach my hand out, the torch hits the ground again. This time I am freaking out, because that was not supposed to happen, and I don't have much time, and the torches are running out of fuel, and the flames are getting small and boring, and I just want this to be over, and I didn't want to be doing this to begin with, and I have to do a whole bunch of shows before I get good, and I don't really understand why anyone stopped, and I certainly don't understand why they stay, and I think juggling is awesome and exciting, and I think people should care, but I know most people don't care, and I know I'm not good enough to actually get people to stop and stay. I also know I need to honor the fact that they did stop and stay, and I really need to hit this trick, because if I don't hit the last trick of the grand finale, I could lose the whole crowd, and then I wouldn't get anyone putting money in the hat. So I start juggling again. I throw the torch way high up in the air. I spin around, I hold my hand up, and I hear a satisfying thwack as the torch lands firmly in my hand. I throw both hands up in the air, and I feel like the coolest person in the entire world. I am the greatest performer who's ever lived. And these people are so lucky that they were here at this time, that they got to see this show, and I am so happy for myself that they got to see it, and they feel so much gratitude for seeing this awesome thing. And they're gonna go and they're gonna tell their friends about juggling, about this awesome guy, and they're not gonna remember my name, and the show's terrible, and now I have to pass the hat, and people are already leaving. As the applause dies down, I blow out the torches one at a time. I quickly pull out a Santa hat, because it's funny, but it's also very small. And I say, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the show. Thank you so much for watching. This is the moment when I pass the hat. I'd much rather be out here doing this than working some soul-crushing job. And I hope you'd rather see me out here too. And just remember, you can't get a show this good on Broadway for $1. I see someone fiddling for some money, so I go up to them. They put money in the hat, and I'm enormously relieved. And to each person who puts money in the hat, I say, thank you so much, and I really mean it. I get to everyone who has stayed, and then, again, I'm all alone on the pitch. I feel triumphantly relieved, and I feel so vindicated, because I've been working on this show for a year, and I pulled it off. I actually did it. I gather my gear, I sit off on the side, I pull the bills out of the hat and count them. I made $7. I'm disappointed that it's not more, but I'm really happy because I actually made money. And I feel fantastic because I completed my first ever street show. And I took the first step on a long journey. At the same time, I'm a little conflicted because I know the show was terrible. And people stopped and stayed, but that's a pretty low bar. And then, immediately after that, the dread comes back because I'd previously made a rule for myself that I had to do a second show. I'm exhausted, I'm covered in soot, and I really want to go home. But I pick my stuff up, I head back to the pitch, because this is who I am, and this is what I do. Thanks.